Dale's muted. There we go. Dale, are you on?
I'm on, yes.
Oh, just in time for invocation. Go ahead.
Okay, I will. My wife Nancy and I often take walks during this time, and a few days ago we took a walk in our neighborhood, and we came across a writing on the neighbor's driveway. It was done by chalk, and it was Psalm 91. Well, I had no clue what Psalm 91 was, and so I immediately looked it up when we got home. And so I'll read Psalm 91 for our invocation today. Whoever goes to the Lord for safety, whoever remains under the protection of the Almighty, you can say to him, you are my defender and protector. You are my God. In you I have trust. He will keep you safe from all hidden dangers and from all deadly diseases. He will cover you with his wings. You will be safe in his care. His faithfulness will protect and defend you. You need not fear any damages at night, nor sudden attacks during the day, or plagues that will strike in the dark, or evils that will kill in daylight. 1,000 may fall dead beside you, 10,000 all around you, but you will not be harmed. You will look and see how the wicked are punished. You have made the Lord your defender, the Most High your protector, and so no disaster will strike you. No violence will come near your home. God will put his angels in charge of you to protect you wherever you go. They will hold you up with their hands to keep you from hurting your feet on the stones. God says, I will save those who love me and will protect those who know me as Lord. When they call to me, I will answer them. When they are in trouble, I will be with them. I will rescue them and honor them. I will reward them with long life. I will save them. So that's very appropriate, I think, for our times.
Thank you very much, Dale. That was appropriate. So we'll go on to guests. Do we have any guests on that would like to introduce themselves? Please unmute yourself and start with Jerry. Why don't you introduce yourself?
This is Jerry Mapes, and I'm calling in from Arizona. I'm happy to see the club meeting this way.
Well, welcome. Who else do we have? We have Kenny. You want to introduce yourself, Kenny?
Certainly. Thank you very much. Kenny Closter, District Governor nominee, calling in from North Mankato, member of the Greater Mankato Rotary Club.
Thanks for joining us, Kenny. How about Jingle? You want to introduce yourself? You have to unmute yourself. Deb, can you help her?
I can't even get her unmuted.
Oh.
For some reason. Unmute audio. There, no, for some reason it's not working.
Okay. Well, we'll just move on then.
Hi, Jingle.
Hi, Jingle. Your muting's not working. Can't hear you. So we'll move on to the joke. So
nope, we have more guests. We have, I guess, joining us from Uganda, the district governor, Xavier.
Xavier, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, President David. Xavier Sentamu from the Rotary Club of Kiwatule in Kampala, Uganda. I'm the district governor here, and I'm so glad to be joining you here. I was invited by Ted, my friend. So I'm so happy to be here with you.
Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate that.
Okay, I'm finally back.
Okay, Jingle's back. All right.
I accidentally left the meeting, and I don't know how, but here I am. And most people know me, but I'm the former Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Jerry Miggs. How cool is this? Okay, I'm done.
Okay, thanks, Jingle. Okay, we'll move on to the joke.
I would like to introduce myself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Anup Mathur from Rotary Club of Arden Hills and Shoreview. I saw Jingle this morning in the board meeting. I'm here with Preeti Mathur, who is your speaker today.
Sounds great. Thank you for joining us. So we'll go out to the joke. If you need 144 rolls of toilet paper for the quarantine, you probably should have been seeing a doctor long before COVID-19.
Together.
You gotta laugh. Inspiration pin will resume once we get back to in-person meetings. Jan and Ed currently have the inspiration pins. We'll spend some time to do some happy dollars. So if anybody wants to be brief, and then we'll collect the dollars when we meet again in person. Does anybody want to have some happy dollars they want to share with everybody? Okay, Mary Jo.
Thanks, David. I'm sure I join everyone in just thanking all of our first responders and all of our people that are working, and especially at Ramsey County, all of our employees have just done such an amazing job of either working from home or finding a way to do their job in a different way. So they've been just amazing. They work on they work on site or at home, and so I just want to give a big, huge shout out to our employees and everyone who's working so hard to help all those that need help these days. And then I want to give another one. I'm gonna do another happy dollar because I want to thank our Rotary and Maria and different people I know have been a part of a group of civic organizations that are looking at ways that they can help the suburban area. And I was just on a call with Suburban Ramsey Family Collaborative, and there's a lot of need out in our suburban area that we can coordinate with. And so there's just some great collaborative things we can do together with our other civic organizations. So I want to give a shout out to us for being a part of that. And Mary Sue Hansen is the head of that, and the head of the collaborative, and she's willing to work with all of the civic organizations to help, find a way that we can all be contributing to the effort.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Me, Lynn.
Can you hear me?
Me, Lynn. I have a 20 for
Oh.
I have to introduce our new addition. You may see her. She's a little 2-month-old Shih Tzu, Onyx Opal.
Oh my God. What
Less than 2 pounds. She's just a little sweetheart.
So
and
cute.
Yes, thank you. She's a sweetie. And secondly, I just completed with our banker Joan this morning the PPP application through the Small Business Administration on behalf of TSE. So we are relieved that our government is assisting with that because we don't have any revenue coming in. So we are in dire need of those assistance funds to be able to keep moving forward. So wish us luck.
All right, anybody else?
Can you hear me? This is
Yep,
Sean.
go ahead, Jan. Go ahead, Jan.
Okay, this is my Suni, my dog. Anyway, I just really am so sad about many Korean Americans out in New Jersey, New York, Washington, and all those areas. They're suffering and some are dying. And I really wanted to, it's a kind of mixed blessing, but I'm so proud of Minnesota and our governor. And then I'm also proud of South Korea, how they handle this pandemic. So this is for the $20 for my happy dollars. And then I don't want to brag, but I have to feed my people. So we have new contract with MnDOT too. So I'm not celebrating, but at least I can feed my people and pay their medical insurances and, get going. But it might be pain for you guys for road construction. I'm so sorry.
All right, thank you, Jan. Anybody else have a happy dollar? Jerry?
This is Anoop. I have a happy $10 here. I'll mail that to Bonnie later. Yesterday, your speaker, she had a fever and I got scared, really scared. So we looked for the thermometer, couldn't find it, went to Walgreens, went to 2 or 3 stores, no thermometers. Finally found one, and she's feeling a little better today. So.
I'm just fine. I don't have any fever today.
But I am happy that she doesn't have anything.
That's good to hear. Jerry?
So I've got $20 as well. We
Whoa.
got our application into the Small Business Administration to our bank, People's Midwest, on Friday, and I just heard from the banker this morning that we were approved. So
Wow.
we're fine. So that is like, I'll give you $100. I don't care. Good God. So good luck, Lynn. Good luck with all small businesses, and something our government did well of coming together. Good job, government.
That's true. Thank you very much. Anybody else have any dollars?
We have
Lauren here.
Lauren, go ahead, Lauren.
I'm just thankful to be back in the U.S. after leaving Australia earlier than anticipated after they canceled our flight. And we're in about day 12 of our 14-day quarantine. And so far, no adverse health issues. So it looks like we may be in the clear.
Oh, good.
Welcome back. Mary, you got one?
Yeah, I have a happy dollar. I'm happy to report that my daughter and two of my friends' daughters are busy making cloth masks. I would like to ask if any Rotary members have extra material, particularly elastic. I would be happy to pick it up and give it to my young friends and relatives who are making masks. I have two daughters currently on the front lines at Press Homes facilities that are dealing with COVID, and they are in desperate need of more cloth masks. So anyone who'd like to help in this, please give me a call. I'm willing to pick up masks. I'm willing to pick up materials, especially elastic or cotton materials, and we are making as many masks as possible to protect my daughters and all of their co-workers.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Jingle here.
Go ahead, Jingle.
I saw a post on Facebook, Mary, where you can tear apart bungee cords, and they're full of elastic strips.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else?
I also realized that you could use fitted sheets. Today I was cutting it up, and there's elastic in those fitted sheets that maybe you could use. I'm not sure. From old,
Thank you.
Another good idea. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on from that one. So special announcements. Oh,
David, we have a hand up. Kenny Closter.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kenny, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you very much. I just wanted to, I'll give you some virtual happy dollars today, and you can keep tabs on them or keep a tally of what I owe. And when I'm able to come and visit you in person, you can collect. So first happy dollar is the markets are up today. Stock market, Dow Jones up almost 1,200, NASDAQ up over 400. So I'm excited about that. The other thing I want to point your club to is I know we all get inundated with emails. So sometimes we see them, sometimes we don't. I'd like to direct everybody to the district webpage, however, Rotary5960.org. A couple of events coming up this week. Wednesday, we have a night with water warrior John Kaufman, virtual Zoom meeting, 7 p.m. And the other one coming up this week is Jennifer Jones, who is Rotary International. I believe she's VP. She will be speaking to our district next Friday, and those links are both on the district website. And then the last thing, I just want to encourage you all to stay connected to your club. You're doing a great job. Also encourage you to stay connected to the district. Go to that webpage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kenny. So go on to other special announcements. Basically, the one that Kenny missed was in lieu of the Conference of Clubs, the district is going to present a special night of connecting, and they'll be held virtually through Zoom with a few really impressive speakers, Tiffany Irvin, and also Rotary International General Secretary and CEO John Huco. That's it's on May 1st at 6:30 in the evening. And there's more information on email that Kathy sent out back on April 3rd. You can register, find information on that email. And the other thing we got going on is not only to have a new spring road cleanup, we're going to still do that. as of right now. So check our bulletin for more information, and there's online registration. There's a link there. You can register for the road cleanup. That is on May 9th at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll just practice safe social distancing while we clean up the road. And any other announcements anybody has? Go ahead.
Thanks. I've been reminding you over the past few weeks, but I just wanted to do it again. The Sheridan Story, of course, is working hard to be able to get packs of food out to people, out to children and their families over these weekends. They have increased, the demand has increased, and so has the need has increased. And so I would invite you, as one of my nonprofit friends said to me, it's not always a good time to give, but it's always a good time to ask. So I would invite anybody who can to go to the Sheridan Story website. You'll see more of the story there, and there's also a donate button, and to be able to donate so that children and families can have food. We all know that it's tough to go to the grocery store. It's even tougher for some families with no money, and this would be a great way to help out. So if you're able to, please go to the Sheridan Story and give what you can at this time. You'll be making a difference in the lives of families that are deeply stressed right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Anybody else have an announcement? Go ahead, Jerry.
The Taste of Rose Fest Planning Committee met on Friday remotely, and in view of where we are at with everything, we are postponing the June 25th Rose Fest, Taste of Rose Fest. We're going to meet again the first Monday or 1st of May, just to see how things have changed, to decide whether it's something that we postpone for 2020 or something that we're able to do later in the summer or earlier in the fall. And there was also floating different ideas about how do we maybe look at it being a bit different than in the past. I.e., rather than it being a fundraiser for Rotary to raise funds to give out to worthy causes, is there some way for Rotary to say to the community, let's get together for a gathering and look at whether our dollars could be spent to more give money to restaurants or back to vendors, or just to pull people together. People might be interested in getting together face to face after we get to the other side of this. That's just all things that are being talked about, but the thing that we know right now is June 25th, the Taste of Rose Fest will not be going on. Any comments or questions, or those of you that were involved in the meeting, anything to add?
Not for me. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jerry. Anybody have a comment? Okay. All right, with that, I'd like to ask Deb to introduce our program for today.
We do have that video from the district too. Did you want to do that one?
Do you want to do that? Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do that right now.
One more thing here quickly.
So the district sent out a video, and I listened to it. It's very informative, and I think we're doing a lot of the stuff they're talking about, but we could be doing more. So I'd like everybody kind of listen to it. It's like around 5 minutes. Oh, I lost it, Deb.
Can you hear it?
Nope. I
Okay,
lost it
hold on a
totally.
second.
It's not even on my screen anymore.
During this unprecedented time. It's a time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the video. So if anybody has any ideas, we're going to have a meeting here, a board meeting coming up here in mid-April. And we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff. And if anybody's got some ideas, please send them forward to me and we'll discuss them at our board meeting. With that, I think we're ready for our program.
All right, well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speakers today, Preeti Mathur. And I think that I am just going to let you give the intro and your connection to the Indian community here in Minnesota, and take it away. Thank you. You're still muted, Preeti. There.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen because I've got some slides to help along. I tried to make it a little more visuals, considering that you know, we are in new circumstances here. So just one second here. So do you see my screen? Hello? Am I still muted?
No, we don't see your screen.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen.
Okay.
And,
oh, there it is.
Okay.
It just came up. We're good.
Okay. So good afternoon and namaste. This is the traditional Indian greeting, which I think is especially relevant in today's time when we need to maintain this physical distances and cannot shake hands. Of course, we are doing this virtually. And again, thank you for having me over. And next, I would just like to share something about me. Here's a picture of me as I was leaving India back in 1978. My father on the left, on my right, and my in-laws had come to see me off just a couple hours before I boarded the plane. And here's us, my husband and I, with our 2 children and their spouses and grandkids celebrating our 40 years of marriage. And I look at this before and after picture and I think, oh my, you've come a long way, baby. So there are a couple sayings that kept recurring in my mind as I was writing this book. Mahatma Gandhi's, be the change you wish to see in world. It was a source of inspiration to me and reminded me that I was doing something that I believed in. And this saying, communication is the beginning of understanding, spurred me on how to write and shape the book. I had envisioned the book would help in generating healthy and meaningful conversations about immigrants and contributions. And given the interest in what I'm doing today, I'm absolutely thrilled that it has come to be, despite all that had to be done to rearrange the stock. So how did the book come about and how did I get to write it? It started when a couple of us from the Indian community approached Minnesota Historical Society and to do an oral history project. And this is when we first started documenting about Indians in Minnesota. Then in 2016, we were able to bring an exhibit called Beyond Bollywood. It was a traveling exhibit that came from the Smithsonian, and we were able to bring it and customize it and sort of showcase Indian Americans in Minnesota. And at that time, my husband and I were on the advisory committee for helping the curators, and they got to know me that I write, and so they asked me to write this 3,000-word article on Indian Americans in Minnesota, and that was published on their website. And so then again, later on, when we found out that there's a People of Minnesota series in that's published by the Minnesota Historical Society, and there was no book on Indians there. And that's again when we approached Minnesota Historical Society and said, can we do something like that? And so with grants and help from the community, we were able to publish that. And the History Center commissioned me to write this book. And I thought, oh, I wrote this 3,000-word article, and how difficult would it be to write a book, right? I'll just expand on it. But I realized how wrong I was. It took a lot of effort and time to produce the book. And thanks to all the narrators and my own tribal knowledge of having lived in the community for many years, I was able to cram in a lot in about 144 pages. So and now I guess I'll get to the bottom what you would like to know about Indians. And so in about 1980, when the census first started documenting or collecting information on, as we would call Asian Indian.
I don't, that's too much. I only want cottage cheese.
Am I going too fast? Hello?
Oh, sorry, someone just unmuted themselves, so.
Yeah, you're fine.
You're
Keep-
good.
I'm doing all right, all right. So, back to the statistics. Back in 1980, the Census Bureau first started counting Indian Americans as Asian Indians. And since then, the population of Indians in Minnesota has grown steadily, doubling every 10 years. And while we were only about 3,000 or so in the 80s, we are over 50,000 now. And I'm sure many of you have encountered many Indians now than you did probably earlier. And by the way, Minnesota has the 17th largest Indian American population in the country. New York and California are ranked first and second. So the settling of Indian Americans in Minnesota can be traced to three distinct waves, all centering around the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act that was signed by President Lyndon Johnson. So in the first wave, this is before the act, most of them were like invited students, researchers, and visitors. Then after the act was passed, particularly in Minnesota, a lot of students came, and a lot of those who had passed out and were employed by corporations in the Twin Cities and other parts of Minnesota, like Honeywell and Control Data, 3M, those kind of Indians came in. And also family members, because there was a clause in the Immigration Act where we could have family members join. Then after that, from 1990s, late 1990s to present, because of Y2K, the computer glitch that they anticipated, and the technology boom, a lot of people started coming because US started offering the H-1B visa, which was for priority workers. So I also wanted to talk about that all Indians didn't come directly from India. There was a wide diaspora. A lot of people came from the Indo-Caribbean islands, like Trinidad, Tobago, Guyana, East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, and Malaysia. The picture that you see here is of Dr. Ram Bachchan, who is the head of religious studies at St. Olaf College and probably the first Christian to be appointed to that position. And somebody who has been at the White House also has been invited to talk about Hinduism. So besides them, we've got a lot of children who were adopted by Minnesotans here. And so a lot of Indians have come, and they have a strong sense of their ethnic heritage and want to know and learn. So I count them as part of the Indian diaspora. And then also there are lots of children of missionaries who were either born in India or grew up there, who came when they're later and then came back. So they also have a very strong affinity to India and have done a lot of things in the Indian community. So now to talk a little bit about some broad characteristics and statistics about Indians. Over 80% of us have college education. And so unlike other parts of the country, most of us here have come for education, like, institutions like University of Minnesota, the Hamline University. So a lot of us are educated, and 96% of us speak English fluently. And also, another point to make is that, as I've mentioned earlier, that because we came primarily for education and jobs, most of us as Asians didn't come as a result of war or as refugees. And many of us, because of their education, are highly skilled professionals, doctors, engineers, scientists, And I've given a lot more of this information in my book. And I think also over 2,000, close to 3,000 Indian American owned businesses are there in Minnesota. We produce over 800 million sales with a payroll of 140 million. So again, more details there, but I just kind of wanted to give you an overview of education and occupations amongst us. We are, the Indian Americans are by and large a prosperous immigrant group, again, because of the education, I guess. We earn the highest median household income, $78,400 compared to $62,000 for all Minnesotans. This is from the 2018 statistics. Poverty rate is also very low, and also unemployment is only 3% compared to 6% of Minnesotans. There's about 35% of us are homeowners, a little low compared to the others, mainly because there's a lot of transients, people who have just come for temporary jobs. Most of us live around in the suburbs of Twin Cities, 83%, and 17 outside Rochester, St. Cloud, as well as Moorhead. In the Twin Cities, initially we all lived around, the first few homes were around the university area. In fact, the house that you see there is one of the earliest settlers, Dr. Dixit's house that he bought. It was a very small house, and it still sits, it still is there, and I took a picture of that for the book. But large population of Indians are in the suburbs of Eden Prairie, Plymouth, Edina, Maple Grove, Wayzata, and Woodbury. Incidentally, in the Roseville, since this is Rotary, there's a resident here, Sylvia Sicon, whose father was one of the earliest ones to have come. He came in the 1930s, and that house by Lake Johanna is still there. She lives in there. She's, of course, remodeled it, and but yeah, she does. It's still sitting there. So again, because Indians tend to be belong to this high income bracket, you see a lot of families in affluent areas like Edina, Minnesota, North Oaks, and Wayzata. Despite the fact that we're considered a prosperous immigrant group and a model minority, which itself is a loaded word, we faced a lot of prejudice and discrimination, especially around 9/11 and even recently. And we've had a share of deaths and have faced adverse situations. And like any and every immigrant group, we've had to face a lot of problems, especially in the olden days where communication was difficult. We couldn't communicate with our loved ones back in India, and travel expenses were so it was so expensive to go back that many of us never returned for many years, But now it's all becoming a little easier, and of course, with internet, everything has become so much easier too. So then, as far as assimilation and identity is concerned, we tend to be more, we are assimilated, but we like to keep in touch with our own culture and family and want to give back to India. And many of us live, there are quite a few of us who live in multi-generation homes. My father, in fact, lived with us 18 years with us until he passed away in 2008. And by and large, we are an assimilated group, especially those of us who have lived here. And we participate in all the typical American activities, sports, travel, entertainment, and including dealing with Minnesota's snow. And in fact, as you can see in this picture here, this is a Thanksgiving picture at one of our friends' place. And the same friend had her family visit her from India, who were strict Jains who didn't eat, even root vegetables. So they rented this RV and took them around the country, showing them national parks and all that. So it's just an example of things that we like to do when family comes over. And again, because we like to stay in touch with our heritage and culture, there are over 50 Indian organizations here in different areas, regional, religious, art, etc. So the other thing is, like, you know, as a community, we love sharing and showcasing Indian culture. And this is one of the ways in which we are contributing to Minnesota. So we have, since 1979, we've been participating in the Festival of Nations. India Fest, which used to be called India Day, started off in a small high school. Then we moved on to Landmark Center. And now it has moved on to the grounds of the Capitol. It's a huge event, and not sure if it'll happen this year, again, because of the virus, but if it is, it's a great opportunity to go and see, experience India, you know, so to speak. There's a lot of entertainment, vendors, food. We've also, a lot of us have done school visits where we talk. There's a Speakers Bureau of India Association where we're regularly called in to talk about India. And of course, the Beyond Bollywood exhibit and things like that, where we try to showcase about India. And the other way that we're giving back to Minnesota and, you know, back to India is through philanthropy and by volunteering. Locally here, we've got foundations like Dr. Dash's Foundation. And in the middle, there's a picture of my husband, Anoop, who teaches math at the Father Project that's run by the Goodwill and Easter Seal program. So there's several of us like that doing things. Soup Kitchen, there is a very viable group called Are You Hungry that even stands at the street corners distributing food. So these are all these efforts to which we're giving back. And lastly, we're also contributing because of our successful careers and education and all that in several areas, like there's several scientists, engineers, inventors. So companies like 3M and all that, we've got people like Anoop has about 28 patents. There's another gentleman who has like 150 patents. So there's a lot of way we're giving back. There are several doctors and people working in the medical field. Several of us, again, because we came here for education, professors. In fact, the dean of Carlson School at the University of Minnesota is a woman of Indian origin. Several of our second generation have got involved with the military, in government and public service. And as I mentioned again, we've got several Indian Americans who have started businesses and entrepreneurs and are contributing to the economy. And again, media, we've got journalists and people in communication field working. And of course, lots of teachers who are offering yoga and alternative medicine and healing arts. And again, especially now, we've got a lot of, we're contributing by opening up these restaurants, grocery stores, and we have at least 2 theater groups who offer plays besides other kind of plays based on Indian themes and all that. So these are some of the ways that we have been contributing. And lastly, I just wanted to say, if you want to know more about Indians, most of the religious places like the Hindu Mandir, the Gurdwara offer tours, and when we're out of this period, maybe you could visit. We have the Indian Music Society of Minnesota that offers great concerts. There's the Ragamala, Katha, and dance theaters that also offer programs, dance programs. And as I mentioned, there's the Tangier and Dreamland theaters. Lots of grocery stores, restaurants. There's the India Palace right here in Rsvl. And as I mentioned again, India Fest, which is held every summer around August. And let's hope we'll have that this year. Otherwise, the following year. And with that, I'd like to end by seeing if you have any questions. And I'll stop sharing my screen here.
Go ahead, Jan.
This is a very interesting talk, and I'm interested to know what do you feel how the virus will affect India? Is it starting late? Is it already there and we just haven't heard about it because of other news? I'm worried about the slums. How do they?
Absolutely. I think we were discussing this just this morning. Despite it, 1 billion people and people living in close quarters, I think they have done probably a better job. And Nupur, Anup may want to say something too there, because he follows the news more closely than I do. He watches the Indian TV.
Yeah, I think containment is one of the major things that they need to do. So right now what they have is a national lockdown. So that has helped quite a bit. So I think having a national lockdown, and then the Prime Minister keeps coming out with gimmicks of engaging the public through awareness, by clapping hands for the workers at a particular time. The entire nation need to do that. And so the people have been helping that way. Whereas the slums, I think that's where they just recently found there was one person who had COVID in the Dharavi slums, which is the biggest slum in the world, which is where the Slumdog Millionaire was made. So I think they're a little concerned about that. So they're trying to come up with a national strategy on how they can contain and how they'll get out of this lockdown, or whether or not the lockdown need to be extended through June or maybe end of May. So all those strategies are under discussion.
Thank you, Anu. Yeah, as I
Okay.
said, what is it? Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think Khadija has a question.
Khatija, yeah.
Go ahead. You have to unmute yourself. Deb, she's not unmuted.
Unmute yourself. Yeah, I can't hear you. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
This technology.
Yes.
I am lucky to get my email out, so this is testing me too. As I was saying, thank you so much. And as an immigrant myself, I'm originally from Kenya. I'm very proud to see immigrants doing great.
Absolutely, yeah.
But my concern is, and maybe this is a discussion we should have among ourselves as immigrants, is how do we start to change the language we use when we're talking about ourselves? For example, words like, I wrote one down, model minority implies that there's a minority or an immigrant who is not the model. Suggesting
in fact, in my thing, I put it in quotes because this
yeah,
is
I know. I noticed that, and thank you.
Yeah, and I'm in my defense, I'm just saying it's a loaded term. I know. It's not,
I know.
Yeah.
So for me, it's how do we start to maybe say, okay, it's loaded, but this is the option that this is how we would want to be thought about as immigrants, is that we're all capable, all of these good things. So to me, I'm just wondering, and I'm grateful, I'm glad that you noticed that it's loaded as well, but how do we start talking about all of us as minorities, as capable, as not, there's no system here, there's no one on top of the other, something like that, just because of the opportunities we've been afforded in life. So to me, that was the only thing I noticed. And thank you so much. I love Indian food. I love Indian culture. We have a lot of Indians in East Africa. And thank you for your talk.
Yeah, like I said, I think doing what we're doing, right? Talking about ourselves is one way of showing that we all are contributing. And that's why I had a large part of my discussion was on how we were contributing.
Yes.
So even though rhetoric right now is, there's so much going on here about immigrants or, Chinese bringing this or that, this is how we need to do that. We need to say that we are very much a productive and group of, part of this whole social fabric.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
This is Hyun. Also, I really do appreciate this presentation, and really, I have so many Indian American friends, and yes, they are all scholarly and high tech, and they're very contributing a lot to Minnesota. However, I was kind of somewhat surprised by this China virus really attack people look more like Chinese, like me, or I hear horrible stories. You know, Minnesotans are basically, I think, very nice people here. I have never really encountered that kind of racism, but in the, where a lot of Asians are living, they really get beat up. They really get physically abused and very dangerous. They come to their stores just to destroy the stores and things, So I really, as a Rotary, we are the international Rotarians, and we really we should really aware of that. And I wonder, how can we, just like, that the other girl that say, how can we help this situation? I don't know.
I think meaningful dialogues like we are having here, and here we are doing it as a small group, but if we can, most of us are doing things, in broader society, right? Like, as Anoop goes out and teaches, or I go out and volunteer in the nursing home, we're all kind of showing, that we are just as anybody else. Going back to the point about this China, what's happening right now with the Chinese population, same thing happened after 9/11. There's a lot of people of Indian origin whose last name is Shah, and they were getting harassed. They were getting phone calls. So it is just that I think we need to educate people. We need to have these forums. Like, unfortunately, next week was going to be our local representative, Kelly Moeller, was going to have a dialogue at the Showview Library, where they had invited me and a Somalian author to have discussion on immigration and this kind of things. So basically, we really need to be doing more of this and educating people. I think what has happened is that we are all getting siloed into what we want to believe in, and we don't want to have healthy conversations. So I think the onus is also on us to be able to engage people in dialogues. And ever since I've come here, in fact, my father, he gave me this advice when I left India, that, assimilate, but, give to people, but also learn from people. So that is something that has always guided me throughout. And I've always done things like this, whether it's in schools or participating in Festival of Nations. Basically, all I'm saying is we need to have these healthy, meaningful discussions. And thank you so much for initiating this.
I just want to add to this too. I think this country I love this country. I love America. And I think because of people like us, there are more positive, good people, and we are all immigrants. We are all immigrants. So we just have to be more active and work together. Like my business, I have so many immigrants. I mean, not that many, but I have all my immigrants. Elaine Scott is the only white woman in our business. But anyway, how every one of you, I look at your faces and who you are. I'm so proud of who you are, and we're working together. So I don't want to put too much negative in it. There are a lot of positive things too, but I just want everybody to be aware there are some people are suffering if we do not care about this issue. And like you said, we have to speak up about it. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like this is more a recent phenomena, because when I first came here, it was not like this,
All right, any other questions? Oh, Lynn's got a question. Go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated this information and to know more about the Indian population here in Minnesota. Your last comment just caught my attention, and I'm wondering if you can say anything about what you have seen change from the time that you came in, was it 1981, late 70s, to now. What has changed for you and for the Indian population, especially here in Minnesota, even as it's grown?
I think there were shades of that early on too. I did experience few things, minor things, but I feel like right now there seem to be like people who feel like they have the license to say or do things openly that wasn't there. If there was any kind of discrimination or anything like that, I've had workers tell me that at 21 you got a graduate degree, you must have bribed somebody, those kind of things, to now where there are people who are openly saying things that didn't happen, and some of our friends from those early days are just the kind of people that I remember America to be, the America that I knew from my life, reading the Life magazine and the Time magazine. It has changed. And it could be the change in leadership, I don't know. I don't want to get into politics here. So, let us leave it at that.
I think for those of us in the professional,
oh, pardon?
For those of us who are professionals, I think it's been real positive change because of, like what Preeti said, in how we are contributing and being assimilating within the corporate world. It's just only outside where, since we have a larger number of people, that's where we see that the narrative change.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't want to get into politics either in that way. However, I would say that what you're experiencing, at least in the last few years, is probably what somebody had mentioned about becoming more siloed, and we are speaking in very different ways these days. And so the opportunity for communication is very important.
Yeah, there's no healthy dialogue. There's no discourse.
Yeah, I think that's felt in a lot of different circles, a lot of different places, that the dialogue isn't there. So I just want to put out an invitation or a challenge to all of my European American friends and colleagues here and elsewhere, especially around the coronavirus, as there's such racism toward Asian Americans and all that. We don't have to wait to defend that when an Asian American is in our midst. I think we can raise those concerns as people are talking about the virus, to be able to put out, whether it's Facebook or conversations, that we really need to be aware of the racism that is happening, and that we stand against that, and we don't want to perpetuate that. And I think any one of us can say that no matter where we are. And so I offer that as an invitation for all of us to engage in that, whether we are in the midst of talking with persons that are not of our same ethnic or racial heritage. Thank you.
Any last questions anybody has? Oh, go ahead, Jerry. It's unmute. There you go.
I just want to say a couple of quick things. I'm so happy I was able to be online and observe this. It proves again how what a strong club Rsvl is, and the leadership you're giving, and between you, Dave, and certainly Kathy, it's come together. And I say you're showing technology at its best. You're helping us down the path of the new Rotary, and it's technology and creativity together that are going to make us more successful. And I think reaching out, I was glad Kenny was at the meeting today, because he and Governor Paul and Ed are all working hard to use some ideas that are exciting. And I think to see Rsvl part of it and helping to learn, it's a learning curve. I'm just very happy, because we've always been a leadership district, and we're keep it up. And because you let me say my 2 cents worth, I'll be part of the $20 club. And
okay. Well, thank you.
I'm happy I could hear it.
Thank you, Jerry. I'm gonna call Deb Nygaard, who brought Zoom to our attention and lined this all up and made this happen. She's been a great controlling the muting and controlling the PowerPoints. So it's a two-person operation, and she's been wonderful to work with. So it's been really great.
Thank you, Deb.
So yeah, any other questions? Okay, with that, Preeti, I'd like to thank you for your being on with us today. In honor of all of our speakers, we make a contribution to the Rotary Woods and Rain Garden in the Rsvl Central Park Arboretum. So we'll be making that later this year. And once again, thank you again for joining us again today. And then next week, it's going to be Isaac Orr from the Center of the American Experiment. So hopefully everybody, oh, go ahead, Preeti, go ahead.
I just